Hi guys, Martin from Belief. In this video we're going to look at an update that will be applied to your website, an optional update on the weekend of the 27th of September 2025. So what you're looking at now is the calculator archive page. The calculators on your website have their own archive and own post type, and I think there's about 34, 35 calculators that are rendered by default. Most of them aren't necessary, and I'll come to talk about that in a moment. So this is what it looks like at the moment. These containers are from effectively version 1 of the, or 0.1 of the framework. So they're built within Elementor using Elementor controls and things like that. It's a fairly clumsy way of doing anything. Anything that you have to hard code into a website or build into a website directly is kind of clumsy, and we try and avoid that. So first thing I'll do is just have a look at this. You'll see that you've got the squares and, you know, the icon and all that sort of stuff. And I'll jump to the new version. Now it might look a little busier and a little heavier, and that's because you've got these titles here that are rendered with each container. Now, first of all, the containers module is huge. Right? We haven't talked about it in our FAQs or on our website or anywhere else, but it's massive. It returns lists of videos. It returns really dynamic and versatile containers that can be used in a multitude of locations, including, by the way, landing pages. I think that's initially why they might have been introduced. So, you know, on a landing page, you'd exclude the icon and the title and just have these text areas. Now, the difference being, of course, with this new module is every component can be updated. That's the border, the border color, the border size, the border type, the icon that shows whether the title shows or not, the background title, the title color, and the text, and so on. So I'll just make a couple of quick changes. In fact, I won't do that first. What I'll do is I'll have a look at a calculator page. So here's a calculator page, which is a list on the right-hand side of all the available calculators. The BM calculators are listed prominently towards the top, and then you've got these here. Now, these occupy about, I think, 25 or so different calculators. Licensed to you, if you're a member of the FBAA, you have license to use these as part of your subscription. If you're with the MFAA, there's a different arrangement in place. The problem is they're not calculators that are worth paying for or even using, because they're not great at all. What we have done is gone through and virtually replicated all of these, made them nice, use sliders and things instead of these button things, but we've integrated it directly with our stepped forms, our standard forms, our comparison engine, and posts and so on. So if we're able to identify an individual's borrowing position based on the information provided, certain types of other information is returned underneath. And I'll introduce those maybe next week. But they're extremely extensive, extremely robust, and they're designed to convert. These iframe-based calculators, I think, are quite woeful in many ways. I just don't like them because they're old and they haven't been styled into your website. So you do have styling options. I think there's 5 or 6 different colors that might be applied under certain circumstances. There's always branding, which I don't like. Anyway, enough of that. Even the hover colors, I don't like the fact that they're sort of fixed. There's a lot of things there that I just don't like about these calculators, and they're not overly intuitive, but I could go on and on. The thing is, they have serviced a lot of brokers for a large period of time, but I think it's time to move on. By the way, we do have a plugin. There's an article on our website. There's a plugin we give away for free, which embeds the MFAA and FBAA calculators on your website. It's a plug and play exercise, and makes all those calculators available to you, whether you're a client or not. It is a free plugin. I think it's on WordPress.org. I'm not sure, but it's certainly available on our website. And it builds an archive the same way we have on our website, and it includes the Elementor tool, so you can drag and drop calculators if you want to. And it includes calculator modals. So you can launch calculators into modals to avoid having to send a user to another page. We talk about that all the time, have inline calculators. So you don't send a user somewhere else when they're attached to certain information that's presented to them. So you don't want them vacating the information, you want them reading. So again, old system, and old containers, new containers. Let's have a look at changing these containers real quick. Now, this is available via shortcode and via Elementor and via Yabba. So you can alter these details in a number of ways. I'm not going to go through them now, but let's just change, for example, the font size. So I'll give it a font size of 1. At the moment it's 0.8, and I'll change the line height to 1.2 from 1, and you'll see it sort of grows a little bit in size. The text increases in size and the distance between each line increases and so on. I'll just refresh that page. So I'm changing this just in the code because it's easier for the purpose of the demo. So there you go there. It's not ideal. As a font size, I don't like a font which pushes titles over into 2 lines, and for this particular calculator page, 0.9 is about as high as you want to go, and I'll show you why. If I refresh the page here with 0.9, those double lines will disappear, and it returns something like that. So I'm going to change that back to 0.8, and I'm also going to change the line height back to 1.0, and let's, for the sake of it, put in a background color that is, let's say, disgusting. Let's go with something yellowish. So I'm picking a yellow color here on the side, and I'll just, and again, it's just for the purpose of the demo. All I'm going to do is change one color because obviously you can change them all. So it's just the one color I'm changing for the purpose of the demo, and it's just into a pretty disgusting fluoro yellow thing. So there we go, and I'll refresh this page. Come on. And that's that. So when it, what was I going to say? Yeah, there it is there. So you probably want a light grey or a white, by the way. Whites work really well with the calculator background because you don't want it to be too busy. You can remove those titles entirely. I won't do it now because it's, you know, you remove the titles, and in fact I will do it. I'll just open the editor back up. Just hang on 1 second. So disable icons. I'll disable icons first. That's probably a better demo. Because the icons are all the same. They're used to illustrate the difference between the source of the calculator, but clients don't know that, so they're kind of pointless. I've also changed the color back to a grey, so we'll just refresh that, and the icons are gone. The icon does space out the container a little bit. That kind of becomes really confusing, particularly with the small font size. Anyway, you can see where I'm going. You'll obviously have your preference, and it is super easy to change. So now I'll just hide the title with the icon, keeping in mind the spacing between the title and the icon and the title can also be changed. So there's really no limit into the way in which you can customize these things. In fact, I've gone on a little bit too long just in showing you sort of the changes that might be introduced, because you can really kind of do anything that you want. So there's the titles gone, and it looks a little cleaner. With a larger font size here and line height, it tends to be closer in, you know, the design to what you had previously, and you can replicate your previous design as well if you want. Now, these calculators on your right hand side, we've got these in a button format. Now, all I'm going to do is just show you that you can revert back to the other format, which is a list. So a list of available calculators. The available calculators we'll talk about in a moment, because we can obviously limit those now and reorder them on your website. So I've refreshed that page, and that's going to return a list now rather than the buttons on the right hand side. And quite frankly, I prefer just the list here, but because I think buttons kind of overcrowd the page, particularly on a page that's not very full. If you had a full page and it went on, it'd be more suitable. So I just like this just for the simplicity. And again, that's managed via Yabba or via shortcode, and there's a whole bunch of different ways. The FAQ, in fact, will go through that. Now, you don't want all these calculators. Some of them are pointless. How long to save? There's tax calculators, introductory rates. Some of them aren't entirely accurate either. Now, first of all, I would encourage the use of our versions of these calculators, but they're not available just yet. But I would discourage the industry calcs, the ones that the MFAA and the FBAA provide, just because they're not very good, and a couple of them are just not accurate in any respect, which is a little bit problematic. Now, what we're going to do is have a look at calculators from within Yabba. We're just going to look at how to manage the types of calculators shown on your page. So I've selected website management. Select the right hand side chevron over here on the right, and that brings us to the second page of 7, I think. Select calculators, and that brings up the calculator options. First of all, this determines what text is shown under a calculator. So you select the site and a page, and you can just create a bit of text there that goes at the top of the page on top of the calculator. Review, send, and statistics. We're going to look at active, which is the active calculators on your site. We might change that menu to active and reorder. This gives you all the calculators that are listed on your site. For the purpose of the demo, we're just going to go through here and turn a whole bunch of these off. So like this. And how many have we got there? Okay, I'll just do one more. I'll save that. If I go back here to this entry screen, excuse me, this gives us now just that limited set of calculators that we wanted on display. And the same applies for the menu on the right hand side. Remember, we've changed the menu now to not be buttons, so just a list, and there'll only be a small number. As we do this, I am changing it back to buttons because unfortunately that is the default now. So really easy to do, guys. Now the other function, there it is there. So you've got this small list of calculators on your site now. These calculators load really slow. It's my biggest gripe with them. They just load very slowly, hosted on a very slow server. So what else we can do here is reorder these calculators. So if we have a look here, I'll just reorder one of them. The last two here, renting versus buying and credit card calculator. I'll just reorder, excuse me. I'll stick the credit card calculator somewhere in the middle there. That should have taken the title with it. That's just an error. Ignore that. And I'll fix that and save it. And if we go back now here, remember credit card calculators at the end. Refresh the page and it should be somewhere towards the middle here. How long will it be? There it is there. So the credit card calculator now is reordered up towards the top here. I'll just put that back. Remembering this little thing here is just an error. We made some changes on the credit card calculator before. Sorry, on the on this particular module before. So we obviously introduced a bug when we just performed this tiny little update, which always happens. So how long will it be before our new calculators are introduced into the ecosystem? Probably a couple of weeks, right? We're going to introduce them one by one. Building calculators, by the way, is super simple. They only take an hour to build. And quite frankly, any broker can probably go onto ChatGPT or Grok or Gemini now and build their own calculator to their own specs. So, you know, the days of having to pay someone to build something as simple as a JavaScript calendar are very much over. They're very simple tools to build. The difficulty in these tools comes in integrating them with your website. and applying the appropriate automation and stuff like that. Well, difficulty for the average user. So, you know, the calculators we've built are obviously very, very, very good, I think. They're very generic. They're all built in grayscale, and they all have certain call to action features built into them. So that's that. I won't talk about the virtues and value of the calculator stuff on your website. You don't need calculators. You just don't. But from an SEO perspective, it contributes towards those principles of EAT, so those core functions. From a funnel-based perspective, you're always driving people back. From an insights perspective, you're always drawing people to make comparisons against benchmarked lending. So, you know, they form a really important function. But you'll find the calculator usage on your website, if you're relying on them for SEO, they're not going to be highly utilized. Because if somebody Googles mortgage calculators, they're going to be delivered to Mortgage Choice or Aussie or someone else. And those guys tend to invest a little bit into their calculators, so they'll typically be better than what you have on your website. That won't be the case for much longer. We're trying to build these new calculators out in such a way that people will come back to them because they're better than others. But we'll soon see. We don't know how they'll perform really in the wild until they're actually out and actually being used. So that's that, guys. Again, selectively remove calculators, reorder them, do whatever you need to do, and style these panels in any way that floats your boat. And I'll talk about the styling in an FAQ or in another video perhaps. Purpose of this video again was just to give you a really broad introduction to this change that was really overdue. In fact, this feature has sat in your website for about 6 months. We just haven't talked about it, and most people just sit on what was there because they didn't know there was an option. So if you want any advice, or you've got any questions or inquiries, give me a call on 0400 777 300. Call or text at any time. Our office number 1300 235 433, that's 1300 Belief, and our website at beliefmedia.com.au. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.